Hey indie filmmakers, Griffin here. Last week, my wife Amy and I attended the South by Southwest Film Festival, and the highlight of this experience was a keynote speech by director, actor, producer Mark Duplass.
If everyone, we could just go around the room, if you could stand up and introduce yourselves.
He spoke at length about his career, and he gave so many practical tips for aspiring filmmakers that I kept thinking, man, I wish all of you could be there. But fortunately, South by Southwest has released the full 30-minute talk and the 30-minute Q&A that followed on YouTube, so you can check it out. But if you don't have an hour right now to watch the whole thing, I'll give you the too long didn't read version. He started with the kind of story that we're all too familiar with in the film industry. He and his brother Jay Duplass made a feature, their first feature, and it cost them $65,000. A lot of money on something that they really believed in. But it was their first feature, and it was terrible. They hated it when it was done. So they had wasted all this money, and of course it went nowhere. And that almost killed their film career. I mean, how do you keep yourself going after a big failure like that? And this led him to reminding us of this simple fact.
The cavalry is not coming.
Meaning, chances are you're not going to make one amazing film and capture the attention of Hollywood execs and launch a career that way. I mean, who does that happen for? For most of us, you're gonna have to work hard and build your own career, make your own opportunities. So Mark and Jay, they got over that initial disappointment and they decided to make something so much simpler, kind of get back to their roots as amateur filmmakers. And they made what he calls a $3 film. I'm not sure what they spent the $3 on, but it was just him and Jay in a room shooting for an hour, doing a silly video. They shot it on a standard definition camera. It had a dead pixel in the middle of it. It didn't look that great, but they had created something that was their voice, that was truly them. And it got into Sundance, this little short film.
At the risk of saying you should make a self-indulgent film for your first movie, you should absolutely make a self-indulgent film for your first movie, because that's your special stuff. That's like your zhuzh. And when you tap into that, you show it to your friends, they'll be honest with you, and you're gonna find, it might be 2 weeks later, it might be 2 months later, it might be 2 years of doing this, that you have something unique to offer. And this is gonna be the start of your career.
So after you make this $3 short film that showcases your voice, that shows what's unique about you, and you get into some film festivals, it's time to make your next film. And Mark says you shouldn't spend more than $1,000 on this second film, whether it's a short or a feature. And the way you get by without spending too much money is, one, borrowing everything. He's talking about borrowing cameras, borrowing hard drives. And secondly, he says you should reverse engineer your micro-budget film. This is something that I've been preaching for a while, but I love the phrase reverse engineer. The idea that you start with what you have and say, how do I make a film around this? I ask myself, what special sets, locations do I uniquely have access to? What talents do my actors have that I could showcase? What special techniques, tricks, camera tricks do I have in my arsenal that I can put to use? And I think that's a great place to start from. What do you have and how can you make a film around that? And that'll save you money, because now you're not saying, well, I gotta go buy access to this, I don't have to buy this camera, I don't have to buy all this stuff. Keep your price down. He says $1,000. And I think that's great advice, because I worry so often I see young people, aspiring filmmakers, going to Kickstarter saying, I need $20,000 for my first feature. Or maybe you need $65,000 like Mark Duplass did. But it may not work. I mean, your first feature should probably suck.
And your first ones are gonna suck. Mine did. I mean, I don't know, maybe you'll make a great one. There's some people that do that. I hate those people.
So try to keep the cost down, because you can showcase your voice, find what's unique about you, and get into film festivals on a much smaller budget. During the Q&A session, Mark also had a lot of great insight for the audience. For an actor who asked how she could get access to filmmakers, meet filmmakers to work with, he suggested that she actually write and produce her own short films. I mean, they don't have to be amazing, but you can create a role for yourself to showcase your ability. And that'll seem a lot less desperate than showing up on a filmmaker's doorstep and begging to be in a film. If you can make your own opportunities, then go to film festivals, you'll meet filmmakers, and you're part of the club, he says. He also mentioned that if you're an actor, you probably do need to move to Los Angeles to get noticed. But for the rest of us, for filmmakers, he suggests staying in your small town.
There is a moment when it is helpful to be in LA. It is so much better for you to keep making your stuff in a small town while you're finding out who you are, because your rent's going to be $265 a month. You're going to get support from the pharmacist when you want to shoot in the pharmacy because your dad knows him.
Another great moment during the Q&A came when a 17-year-old stood up and said, "Hey, Mark, I'm a 17-year-old filmmaker." And Mark cut him off right there.
Right away, I know you're going to be successful. That you're 17 and you call yourself a filmmaker, you're good, dude. You don't need me. Sit down, dude. I'm serious. Sit down. Give somebody else a fucking chance, man.
And when another young filmmaker asked if he should go to film school,
if you came to me and said, "Dude, I've already read all the textbooks. I know what the 180-degree axis is of shooting, and I know how to shoot uncompressed on an iPhone," I would be like, 100% do not go to film school. You are ready for this.
Okay.
Go out and do it.
that's something to consider. If you already have that foundational knowledge, maybe there's something better you could do with your life for 2 or 4 years. I mean, maybe still go to college, but maybe you don't need to be a film major to get where you want to be in your career. Here's what you should take away from Mark Duplass. We've all, as indie directors, been at the start of a career, knowing that we have something to offer, but not really knowing how to break into the industry. And it takes finding your own voice, figuring out what's unique about you, and then you don't need to spend a lot of money to create opportunities to get your work out into the world and get noticed. As he says, the cavalry is not coming, so don't wait around for someone to give you an opportunity to make your film. Go make your film right now with whatever camera you have. It doesn't need to look perfect. Just keep making films, and everything you do could potentially lead to a cool new opportunity. So if you have an hour, I recommend watching the entire speech. I'll throw the YouTube link at the end of this video. Thanks for watching.
I was sitting there thinking, I'm inspired, I'm excited, I want to be a filmmaker, I have no connections. How the